Hi, God. Thanks for the shine. So, we're going to have a confession, man. So here, let's just recap. So, what we're going to do is that we're going to walk through what happened with us yesterday, man. So this was super fun. So this is what we were doing, right? So, we now know who we are. We know what we are. We know what our status, what our standing is, and what our jurisdiction is because we're one of the people. Hi, right? So with being one of the people, you have a duty, a responsibility, and an obligation to let our public servants know what's up, man, right? So we were doing what we like to do, and we like to go out there and we like to test, right? So we went to this place in California called the DMV, which means Department of Motor Vehicles. Here, check this out. Look, can you see that right there? Right. So there goes their little handbook right there, right? So there goes the DMV handbook, and this one is in English, right? Because they also offer it in different languages and things like that, which is kind of cool, right? But then when you look right here, so if you see right here, these are called the public servants, right? So the governor of the state of California is right now Gavin Newsom. He's a public servant. Hi, public servant, right? Here's another public servant, right? The California State Transportation Agency, the secretary of the California State Transportation Agency, David S. Kim. Hi, public servant. Here's another public servant, right? Of the California, or the director of the California Department of Motor Vehicles, Steve Gordon. Hi, public servant, right? So this one right here, this confession that I'm having has a lot to do with you guys right here, right? With you public servants, right? Forgive the sound. It's Wednesday, and on Wednesdays, they do the work in the land, right? So we have the people that are mowing the land, and then they're doing all the gardening and stuff like that. Landscapers is what you call them, right? So let me get back to my point, right? So I was hanging out right here with the DMV, right? Because I had to go there because I wanted to ask them a question, right? So here, check this out. I'm going to show you what I asked them. See? You see that right there? Right. You see that right there? So that's the front and then the back of the question that I went to go ask the DMV, right? So I was like this: Hi, Department of Motor Vehicles, question. I am not for hire. How do we get exempt plates? We do not want to be harmed by public servants, right? So that was my question, right? Is because, when I wander around the realm and I travel around the realm, I have what they call a vehicle, right? So my body is a type of vehicle that I get around in, right? And then another type I get around in is like it's a carriage, right? Or, they will call it a car, right? They will call it an automobile, right? It's something that I get in and then I move around in, right? And then I travel around in, right? So then I was like, oh, okay. So then I was walking around and I was seeing that there's these license plates, right? And I'm like, well, what is a license plate? I'm like, what are all these license plates that are on all these passenger vehicles that I see all over the place, right? So then I was like, well, let me go do some research. So then I went and did some research, right? And then I was like, well, let me find out what these words are, right, according to these entities right here, right, the Department of Motor Vehicles, right? So I was saying, well, what are these words that you have these plates on these vehicles for the people's property, right? So then I went into the California Vehicle Code, right? Right, because I was like, all right, so when I wander around and then sometimes I'm in my vehicle, right, then there's these other entities out there that are public servants, right? And then they have what they call the police force, right? And then the police force is supposed to administer the codes, right? The codes and statutes for our public servants, right? So if our public servants are getting out of line and out of hand, then we send the law enforcement after them, right? And then we say, check them, right? So what's been happening is that the jurisdictions have been mixed, right? So the people are separate from the public, right? That's always how it is, right? The people can go operate in the public, and the people can put on hats and then titles and things like that, and then they can get down, right? But then the people are not public, right? The people are always private, right? But it depends on what you are and how you identify yourself, right? So that's why, I'm always seeing that they're always trying to trick the people, and then they're always trying to call the people. An example in this story is that they kept trying to call me a person, right? And I'm like, I'm not a person, man. I'm one of the people, and I'm here to instruct, right? So this is what was going on at the DMV yesterday. Hold on, let me take a sip of my coffee. It's coffee time, man. So then we were at the DMV, right, you know, and then we were hanging out. So then we had to go there. First, we have to stand in line, right? That's a burden, right? You know, so you got to stand in line, and then you got to go talk to someone who they call a technician. And then I asked the technician the same question. I was like, hi, I'm not for hire. How do I get an exempt plate? Who in here can help me get an exempt plate, right? So then the technician, a very nice woman, she was like, oh, okay, here's a ticket, right? And then she gave me a ticket. I think the number on this one was called B15, right? You know, so B015. So then I had to go in and I had to take the ticket, and then I went and sat down, and then, you know, in this place, they're just calling out all these numbers like, you know, it's like bingo, right? You know, so they call a number, and then you go to a window. They call a number, you go to a window. So they called B15 finally, and then I went to the window, and then I asked the woman behind there, you know, and I was like, hi, you know, question, how do I get my exempt plate? I'm not for hire, right? You know, and then she was like, she looked at me kind of confused, and I was like, here, listen, let me explain it to you, right? You know, so I am not for hire, you know, I travel, right? I have a passenger vehicle. A passenger vehicle is exempt from having to register, right? You know, so I'm just quoting the code, right? You know, because this is what they fall under. They fall under the code, right? You know, and then she was just like, I don't know. Only government people can get exempt plates. And I was like, no, not true. I was like, here, right? You know, so on my phone, here, let me show you, right? You know, so boom, you see that right there? Right, okay, boom, right, don't worry about it, right? You know, but what that is that's the 2021 California code, vehicle code, right? You know, Division 1, words and phrases defined, right? You know, so here, let me white balance again, right? Boom, let's white balance that. Boom, okay, cool. Right, so I'm always about the word, because in the beginning was the word was God, and God is the word, man. Scary simple, right? You know, so then when I went in there and I was like, here, look, let me show you, right? Right, I was like, let me show you what's up, right? And then she was just looking at me like, oh, okay, thank you, right? So then I was like, listen, this is what a commercial vehicle is, right? A commercial vehicle is a motor vehicle of a type required to be registered under this code, right? Used or maintained for the transportation of persons for hire, right? Compensation or profit, or designed, used, or maintained primarily for transportation of property, right? That's what a commercial vehicle is, right? You know, so I was like, oh, okay, so a commercial vehicle, you know, when you track it down, is like, yo, it is maintained for persons for hire, right? For the transportation of persons for hire, compensation, right? Or profit. And I was like, I'm not for hire, right? I'm not for compensation, right? I'm none of those things, right? I'm just going from one place to the next, right? You know, so I got to go from one property to another property. That's all I do. Scary simple, right? You know, so then I was scrolling down because that was A. Then they have another part in there, and it's B, right? B is for passenger vehicles and house cars that are not used, repeat, that are not used for transportation of persons for hire, compensation, or profit, are not commercial vehicles, right? This subdivision shall not apply to Chapter 4, commencing with Section 6700 of Division 3, right? So I was like, oh my God, now I gotta go to these other places right here, right? Because I'm already seeing, right, that I'm not bound to register my vehicle, right? Because first off, I'm not a person, right? You know, so I'm not a person, I'm one of the people, right? You know, I have persons, you know, and I control persons, but I am not a person, right? You know, so then I have to get past that. I have to get past that bit right there, right? You know, so as I'm telling this woman this, and then she's like, no, government vehicle can only be exempt. And I was like, well, who is your boss and who can I speak to? Right? I was like, because you're not understanding, right? So then she was like, oh, okay, well, here, let me show you, right? You know, so then I had to go to another window, right? Then I had to go back to the front, and then I had to talk to the man who was a supervisor, right? And then I had to wait, you know, so then this man comes to me, right? And then I explained to him the same bit, right? You know, and then he was like, government vehicle only could be exempt. I was like, who is your boss? Who do I talk to, right? I said, because I need to work up the chain, man, right? Because I'm just walking up the chain of command, right? Because obviously I'm starting to see that the Department of Motor Vehicles, right, the men and then the women that work in this entity right here, they don't have any knowledge, right? They don't have any knowledge of what the people are and what a person is, right? Because they're mixing the jurisdictions, right? So when one of the people comes in and presents themselves as one of the people, right, they don't know what to do. They just think, I see a person, right? I'm like, I'm not a person, right? And then they don't understand it, right? So it's very difficult, right? So then, I'm talking to the man and I'm like, well, let me move up the chain with you too, bro, right? I was like, so who do I contact? Who's your boss, right? So then the man gives me a number, right? So check this out, right? He gives me this number right here. You see that? Right? So that says field office support, right? So the field office needs to support. They need support. Somebody needs to help them out, right? So then I had the phone number for the field office support was 916-657-8035 HQ, right? So that's what the supervisor, I won't say the man's name, right? But that's what the supervisor gave me, right? So I was like, thank you, right? So then I took that number and then I left, right? Because obviously I wasn't going to get any type of help, any type of assistance from any type of the public servants in the Department of Motor Vehicle at that office where I was at, right? Sip time. So then I leave, right? I leave and then I go hop in my passenger vehicle, because I'm not for hire. Right, I'm not for hire. I'm just traveling from property to property, right? So as I'm traveling from property to property, I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and call this phone number, right? So I call the phone number, right? And then all of a sudden, I get a bunch of automated messages, and then it's like, oh, what do you want to do? So I'm just like, registration. I want to find out what's up with the registration, man, right? So then I finally get to the registration, and they're like, we're busy right now, so if you want us to call you back, boom, hit the number, right? So it's like, okay. Okay, I want you guys to call me back. Okay, so here, I'm going to hit the number, and then we're going to keep it moving, right? So then I hit the number for them to call me back, then I hang up, and then I start driving from one property to another property, right? I'm saying these words for a specific reason, right? Because that's all we do, God, right? Is that we just travel, and we travel from one property to another property. We're not for hire. Right, we don't do this for compensation. We just move. We just go from one place to the next, right? And then all of the public servants that are wandering around the realm, they think that we're always moving in some type of commercial capacity, right? And then they think that our vehicle is a commercial vehicle. And I'm just like, oh my God, these people just don't know what's up. They don't know what's up and what's down. They're just out here just wandering around like blah, 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 commercial vehicle, right? So then I'm like, all right, I'm traveling home right now to the next property, right? Let me get some of this on. Right, so I'm traveling, and then, I get a phone call. The phone call comes back, right? So then I'm like, whoa, let me pull over, right? Because I have to communicate with who this technician is, right? Because I'm calling him a technician because the field office was calling me, right? So I'm speaking to the technician, and then boom, I run through the whole script again. I'm like, yo, hi. I'm not for hire, right? This is what I'm saying. I'm not for hire. How do we get exempt plates? We do not want to be harmed by public servants, right? That's it, right? I am not for hire. How do I get an exempt plate? Because I don't want to be harmed by the public servants, right? Because the public servants lack knowledge unless they see something that they're familiar with, right? They don't know what men and they don't know what women look like because they're only used to dealing with persons, right? So when a man or a woman presents themselves as one of the people, it breaks their brains. Seriously, they're just like, oh, they start thinking that we're crazy, and then you just see all sorts of things happening with them, right? So then now I'm on the phone again with the field office, and I'm talking to the technician, right? And then I'm like, hey, technician, check this out. Boom, run the same script through it, right? And then she's like, I was like, look, okay, let me talk to your supervisor, right? I'm just walking up the chain. I'm walking up the chain, right? So then she puts on her supervisor, who they call a manager, and then her manager has the ID number of KW, right? And I'm like, okay, KW, what's up, right? So then I'm running KW through the same script, right? And then I'm reading to her the code, right? The code of what a commercial vehicle is and what a passenger vehicle is and what exempt means, right? And then if you're none of those things, then the office or the department has to provide for you free of charge an exempt plate, right? That's what the law said, or not the law, but that's what the code says, right? So the California code says that they must provide for, if you were exempt, free of charge, a plate, right? And I'm like, I want my plate, man, right? I was like, I want it free of charge, right? So then as I'm going and I'm speaking with the woman, right? And I'm like, well, check out the code, right? And I was like, do you understand? So then she goes and then she tries to repeat the code back to me, right? And then she's like, commercial vehicle, person, right? And I'm like, I'm not a person, right? I said, I'm not a person. I said, you keep mixing me up and you keep calling me a person. I was like, I'm not a person and I'm not for hire. I was like, how do I get an exempt plate? She was like, you can't, because you can't drive on the roads. I said, well, the code says you can go property from property in a vehicle, right? In a vehicle, in a passenger vehicle. The code says it. Her brain was breaking, man. I was watching her brain. I was like, look, who's your boss, right? I was like, I need to talk to your boss because I need to walk up the chain, right? So then this manager says to me, well, give me your phone number so they can call you back. I'm not playing that game, man, right? I'm like, nah, I'm cool, thank you, right? Because then, I hit the threshold of what I wish to do, right? So I went to the office, I went there physically, and then I spoke with people, who are servants, right? So I spoke with the public servants with their titles, and I was like, do you know what your job is? I was like, how do I get this plate, right? I'm not for hire. I want an exempt plate. What's the process, right? They couldn't answer me, right? I talked to a supervisor. The supervisor, same game. I'm not for hire. I want an exempt plate. What's the process, right? Couldn't answer the question, right? And I was like, bro, I asked him too. I was like, do you know that all people are free by nature? And then he was like, I don't ask questions, right? And I was just like, oh, okay, all right, I'm gonna keep it moving, man, right? So then as I'm going, and then I call the headquarters, right? Allegedly the headquarters, right? And then I'm talking to them, and then I'm like, how do I get my plate, right? I'm not for hire, right? I want an exempt plate. What's the process? If you're not government, you don't get that, right? And I'm just like, okay, these people lack knowledge, right? So now I'm coming, right? So right here, right? Public servant, governor of the state of California. We're going to show you what's up through the notice, right? Secretary of California State Transportation Agency. We're going to show you what's up with the notice, man. And then California Department of Motor Vehicles, right? We're going to show you guys what's up, man, right? So we're going to send in our notice, right? Because this is just what we do. We just like doing that, right? Because this is all we do now, is that we have to instruct our public servants, because our public servants lack knowledge, right? So here, let me show you another part right here. I'm just having fun hanging out with you guys right now in this confession, right? So we have another part right here where did we go? Right, where did we go? Did we go here? I got to find the travel bit, right? Because I have a travel bit in here. I didn't pull it up, but I should have pulled it up, right? Was it in the grand jury? Yeah, because the grand jury, I'm always investigating things when I do my grand jury bit, right? So here, let me show you, right? So this is what we did, right? Here, let me show you this right here, right? Okay, boom. You see that? All right, cool. Boom, white balance back, right? Boom, lock it down, boom. Okay, so that is the Vehicle Act of 1915, right? This is where DMV was birthed, right? So the Department of Motor Vehicles was birthed in the Vehicle Act of 1915, right? And then it got like Chapter 188, right? I had to go online and find this, man, because, you just got to get the word, man. We just like finding the words, okay? So we went to the Vehicle Act of 1915, and then we just wanted to see what's up. And then it has words and phrases defined, right? Then it says right here, we like this one. It was approved May 1915, right? In effect, December 1915. And then it says, the people, hi, I'm one of the people, right? The people of the state of California do enact as follows. And then I was like, well, first off, I wasn't around in 1915. whatever, right? You know, and then I was like, I'm one of the people, cool. I didn't enact this. I didn't enact this, so I'm not bound to this, right? You know, but then I'm like, okay, cool. Let's just see what's up with the words, man. You know, so then we went in here and then we did the same thing, right? You know, we did the same thing, right? We checked out the words and phrases and then we went and then we looked at the definitions. I'm going to show you another one, right? Let's check this out, right? You see that right there? So right there, it says something, right? I'm not even going to hold it up because I'm just going to read it, man. And then we'll pause, right? You know, so it says exempt, take out, separate, not a part of, from tax, right? And this is section 2. All motor vehicles owned and used in the transportation of official business by the representative of foreign powers or by officers, boards, or departments of the government of the United States, and all motor vehicles owned by and used in the operative work and such corporations as are taxed solely for the state, right? Purposes under the provision of the Constitution of this state, and such self-propelling vehicles as are used neither for the conveyance of persons for hire, pleasure, or business, nor the transportation of freight, or are hereby exempted from payment of the fees in this act prescribed, right? You know, so if you are a foreign power, you're exempt, right? You know, or an officer, you're exempt. If you're a board or a department of the government of the United States, you are exempt from paying these taxes, right? You know, so then you keep tracking it down, right? You know, corporations as are taxed solely for state purposes, right? If you're a corporation, you will be taxed, right? You know, but if you are not a corporation for hire and you're not for hire, right, you are exempt, right? It says it right here in 1915, man. You know, so I had to travel all the way back into 1915 just to go and show and match up code for code to say, well, it says is exempt here in 2021, right? In 1915, the words are the same, a little bit different, but the same. It says exempt means you don't have to pay. So as one of the people who were just traveling and who were just going from property to property, I'm exempt from having to pay registration fees. And then now my public servants at the DMV, you know, lack the knowledge. They lack knowledge, man, because they want, I don't know who trained them, right? You know, I'm pretty sure that, you know, the government public servants aren't teaching them the difference, you know, between a person and one of the people. You know, I'm pretty sure they're not teaching them that there's a constitution, and then within the Constitution, that's where the rules are that all of our public servants are bound to, right? You know, and then I'm just checking it out. And then even here, I'm going to show you another one, right? You see this right here, right? Look, I'm holding that up long enough because, you know, that'll mean you could take a screenshot, you know, but this one right here says, so I got this one right here because I was looking at the California Commercial Driver Handbook, right? You know, so these are for those big trucks, right? If you're driving those big trucks and things like that, and you need to get that CDL, right? And you want to be a CDL operator, right? Because you have to get a commercial driver's license, right? So all of the little license, right? Because if you see right here, right? Right there, right? That's just a California driver's license required, right? You know, so right here, it's even telling you, right? It's a map. It's a map. So you can go to the DMV and get this and look at it yourself, right? It says types of license required for passenger vans, whatever that, you know, so that's at the top, right? But then when you go to the bottom right there, right, and then you just start looking at the question, and then it says a question right here. Is the vehicle used for transporting persons for compensation, profit, or used by any nonprofit organization or group? Okay, so once again, it's all about, are you for hire? If it says yes or no. If it's yes, then you need a commercial driver's license, right? You need to get a commercial driver's license, right? And then that's A, B, C, D, right? They have letters after them. Remember that, right? Just the regular driver's license is a commercial driver's license. Remember that, okay? Right? You know, so if you have yes, then you have to get a commercial driver's license. If it's no, right, then you go up here. Commercial driver's license not required, right? So if you're not driving, if you're not for hire, no commercial driver's license is needed, period. the end, right? You know, and all of our public servants who work in the Department of Motor Vehicles, they don't understand this, man. You know, so that was my adventure yesterday, right? That was my adventure when I was traveling the land, right? And then I wanted to go test, right? Because I like to test, right? I like to test with the word. You know how we get down. We love it, right? You know, so I went out, I took God, I took Holy Ghost, I took Christ, right? And then we all went out there and then we all talked with the people and then we were just seeing how do they operate, right? And then we're just like, oh my God, they don't even know what's up, right? The people don't know what the word is, right? And then when you show them the word, they don't understand it, right? You know, they just started to break. We don't get it, right? You know, so that's how we know we're dealing with a lot of fools, man. You know, because fools despise knowledge and fools despise instruction, right? You know, so when you try to instruct, right, and then you try to show them knowledge, right, a fool will never hear you. A fool will act all out of bounds. They will just start yelling and they will start doing all sorts of things and they'll start calling you a person, right? And then you're just like, okay, fool, right? I'm dealing with a fool right now. Let me step back because I love fools, right? Because fools are just an opportunity just to instruct, man. Scary, simple service, right? So that's it, man. You know, that's my one piece of paper, you know, also called the Bible, right? And then that was my bit for High Department of Motor Vehicles. Question: I'm not for hire. How do we get exempt plates? We don't want to be harmed by public servants, right? None of our public servants at the Department of Motor Vehicles at the levels that we were dealing with know anything about this. Therefore, we're going straight to the top, right? And we're going to hit up the governor, and then we're going to have the governor hit up all the people underneath them because they're supposed to execute, right? You know, the governor is supposed to, he's the executive, they're supposed to execute the laws, right? You know, and then we got to get them now to execute the laws to the chain down under, right? Because the chain down under, all the public servants, they need to know what's up, man, right? And, you know, that's just how we roll now. So that's it, God. That's my confession, man. I hope you had fun with this one, man, because we had fun. It was really a lot of fun talking with these people because we were doing it out of love, right? Because we love all of our public servants and we want to show them, right? If the laws don't go back to love, right, and, you know, it doesn't go back to love and free, then that means it's no law, and then we, the people, aren't bound to anything like that, right? Scary, simple service. All right. Well, that's it. I'm done. You know, I'm going to just go ahead. I'm going to upload this. I'm going to put it together. And then we'll have this memory lock in. And then our confession is done, guys. So I'll see you in the future. Remember, nobody's having more fun than us. Bye.